Yes, we know those teachings as the Beatitudes. Someone has referred to them as the be happy attitudes, and that's not bad. Joy is a key word in our faith. But unfortunately, the joy of our faith is too often diluted or distorted, even by those who claim the name of Christ. They interpret faith more in terms of suppression and not in terms of liberating joy. Many people think that becoming a Christian means committing to a long list of negatives and thou shalt nots. The great judge, Oliver Wendell Holmes, said, I might have been a minister myself if a certain clergyman had not looked and talked so much like an undertaker. It is strange, it is sad that it should be Christianity that is distorted in this way. The poet Goethe called Christianity the religion of sorrow. Jesus taught that we all are children of God and are entitled to joy here and hereafter, and both are possibilities. Not only are the followers of Christ entitled to joy, but it is incumbent on our believers to experience it. That late great preacher Vance Havner once said, "A Christian with a glowing testimony is worth a library full of arguments." And he was right. Jesus taught that these are conditions in which we might experience peace and joy. He gave us the Beatitudes, blessed attitudes that make for joy and happiness. Blessed or happy, he said, are the poor in spirit. That is, those who are humble and teachable, those who know that they have not achieved perfection, are willing to learn. They are not easily offended when someone suggests that they do not have all the answers. Do you remember that old limerick that went like this? I once had a classmate named Guesser, whose knowledge got lesser and lesser. It at last grew so small, he knew nothing at all, and now he's a college professor. I think that could be rewritten and say, now he's a college president. The humble temper their judgments of others with compassion. They know how prone they are themselves to go astray as we do. They are forgiving, for they know there is much for which they need to be forgiven. They do not carry with themselves the poisons of hate. The humble person has a sense of humor and is able to see himself or herself in perspective. Sometimes it remains for another to give a proper perspective. The husband stood inordinately long before a mirror, adjusting his tie and primping. Tell me, he said to his wife, how many really great men are there in the world? One less than you think, my dear. One less than you think. Blessed, said Jesus, are those who mourn. That is, those who lament their own or society's shortcomings. When we enter into the sorrow of others, deep friendships are forged, and in losing our lives in the sorrow of others, we find deeper meaning in our own lives. The peace of God is there. Blessed, said Jesus, are the meek. Meekness is not weakness or cowardice. The meek person is the one whose life is committed and surrendered to God's way. Those who lose their lives in love and service find joy and a peace which passes all understanding. Blessed, said Jesus, are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, righteousness. Those who have a longing for goodness, who know a deeper peace. Happy are those who are driven to be better than they are, for they know the inner joy of improvement. Blessed are the merciful. To err is human, but the one who does forgive removes enmity and ill will and knows a peace and calm that is otherwise impossible. If we carry responsibility on our shoulders, we have no room for a chip. Blessed or happy are the pure in heart, those who live to do God's will, those whose lives are not cluttered with half-hearted loyalties to God, ones who sense God's presence. Blessed are the peacemakers. Note that it is not peacekeepers, but peacemakers, those who take the initiative to promote peace. Beyond these specific attitudes was Jesus' belief, later shared by the Apostle Paul, that people are not driven to goodness, but attracted to goodness. Nothing is more attractive, nothing more inviting than a person of faith whose faith is not a weight, but wings, who sees faith not as a duty to be performed, but as an adventure to be lived. You know, one person who demonstrated and brought into focus all that I have been trying to say was Robert Louis Stevenson. He hardly knew a day of good health. He was a walking hospital, but though sick, he was always singing. Though cast down, he was not dismayed. If your morals make you dreary, he said, depend on it, they are wrong. Let us remember the little girl's prayer, which is appropriate. She said, "Oh God, make all the bad people good and make all the good people nice." That could be a prayer for all of us. May God teach us, as the psalmist wrote, to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom, that God may satisfy us early with God's mercy, and that we may rejoice and be glad all of our days. And may you be blessed by this simple witness. In His name, amen.